How intentional are you about living your best life as a Christian woman? How intentional are you about designing a life you love, creating healthy habits and routines, and taking action, actually taking action to achieve your goals and your dreams? How mindful are you about how you're spending your precious time, your money, your energy, and recognizing where you could maybe pivot for a better, higher quality of life? In this episode, we're talking all about intentional living, being mindful about how well you're living your best life in various areas, and what you can do to elevate those areas, from your relationship with God and others to fulfilling purpose, living with joy, and all the other essentials of Total Thrive that I've been talking about. Today is all about living with intention, on purpose, with purpose, and I'm going to get into it right now. Hey there, ladies. Welcome to the Total Thrive podcast. This is where we hang out together and talk about living our best lives as Christian women. I'm Jenna Dexter. I'm a certified Christian life coach, and I am on a mission to ignite women like you to dream bigger, believe in all that is possible, and totally flourish in your life and your calling and your God-given destiny. We've been going through the 7 essentials of Total Thrive, the 7 essentials for living your best life as a Christian woman. In episode number 1, I gave an overview of all of the 7 essentials. In episode number 2, I talked about a thriving relationship with God. Episode number 3 is about dreaming with God. Episode number 4 is defining and pursuing your purpose. In episode number 5, we talked about your mindset, thoughts, and beliefs, how what you believe determines your ability to achieve your dreams, your goals, as well as, just your overall peace. Episode number 6 focused on cultivating great relationships with your friends and family and community. And then last week, episode number 7 was all about the joy, practical ways to add joy to your life. So if you missed any of those, you can circle back and check any of those out at your leisure. But today we're talking about the 7th and final essential for living your best life as a Christian woman, which is intentional living. Living with purpose, on purpose. Because sometimes it's easy to just fall into ruts. We just let life happen to us instead of making life happen for us. Maybe letting the random circumstances of life dictate our future. We get comfortable with the familiar, our routines, with the way things are, and we don't necessarily take time to even recognize that our life is not heading in the direction that we would like. We're not actually accomplishing our goals and fulfilling dreams. We're not actually creating better relationships or learning the skills that will help us land that job promotion, or putting in the work to build the business or write the book, or maybe, move out of the less than ideal living situation that we're in. Basically, if you think about the first 6 essentials, this one comes last because it's all about being intentional about all the other 6 essentials. You'll notice that in probably every episode, I mentioned being intentional. Intentional about your relationship with God. Intentional about taking time to dream. Intentional about defining and pursuing purpose. Intentional about taking thoughts captive and embracing a powerful mindset. Intentional about cultivating relationships, and intentional about adding joy to your life. So I want to ask you this. What is your vision for your best life? And are you living with intention to create that life? Do you know what your dreams and goals are? Do you even know what they are? And are you deliberately taking action to fulfill them? Are you consciously pursuing your purpose? Right now, think about at least one dream or goal, or even one tiny, simple little thing that would give you a higher quality of life. And then think about whether or not you're actually creating a lifestyle that supports it. Literally right now, is there just even one little thing that you're like, oh, I wish this one thing were better about my life? Thinking about it. Oh, here's the thing. Yes. Okay, am I doing anything about it? Am I actually intentionally creating a lifestyle that supports it? Let's say you want to write a book. but you've been saying that for 10 years and still there's no book. Well, first of all, you have to decide intentionally if writing the book is a priority right now. I actually have plans to write not one, but many books, and yet still there is no book. But that is an intentional choice for me at this time of my life because, among other things, my time is fully spent on doing things like writing, recording, editing, and publishing weekly video podcast episodes. That's one of my biggest priorities right now, and especially as I get into the flow of it, it is very time consuming. But it is an intentional, well thought out action to focus on the podcast and YouTube, as well as course creation and other things right now. So eventually I will make the book a priority. It will be an intentional choice, and I will take deliberate action to adjust my life to accomplish that goal. However, let's just say that writing a book is a very big desire for you that you really would like to make a priority and accomplish, say, in the next 6 months or a year. If you really thought about it, again, intentionally, thinking about, yeah, that really is something I really want to do. But you just keep finding yourself putting it off. And as a quick side note, if writing a book is not your thing, insert whatever your thing is into my discussion as I talk about this. Use the book writing as a metaphor for whatever your thing is, and hopefully it will get your brain juices flowing. So first of all, think about why. Why are you not writing the book or doing whatever that thing that you know deep down that you want to accomplish? Get clear on what is keeping you from doing the thing. My first guess is that you're just overwhelmed and you don't even know where to start. So is that it? Overwhelm? Is overwhelm your obstacle that's keeping you from writing the book or doing the thing? Is not knowing how to start the obstacle? You don't even know where to start. Is time an obstacle? Because that would be my second guess, that you just feel like you just don't have time to write the book. I mean, that's a pretty overwhelming thing. That takes a lot of time to write a book. How could I possibly have time to write a book? Or to whatever the thing is. So let's just say that all three of these were your reasons. First of all, bravo for intentionally recognizing them, because remember that living with intention is what we're talking about right here. So in this scenario, we've intentionally decided that we really do want to write the book, and we've intentionally thought about what is preventing us from writing the book. And we recognize that, number one, we're overwhelmed. Number two, we don't know how to start. And number three, we just don't have time. And basically, I can tell you right now that the reason you're overwhelmed is because you don't know how to start and you feel like you don't have time. So you really only have two obstacles. Once you get those figured out, the overwhelm goes away. So now we have to get intentional about what we can do to overcome those obstacles. Do you really not have enough time? I promise you that I really don't, which is why book writing is not on my radar right now. But if you are ready to decide that book writing is your number one goal that you'd like to accomplish, then intentionally get serious about whether or not you have some time that you could carve out of your day if you rearrange things. Perhaps you spend one less hour watching TV each night and dedicate that hour to writing. Perhaps you get up 1 or 2 hours earlier, which might mean going to bed earlier. That's always my problem when I decide that, I'll just get up earlier. I'm like, wait, that means I also have to go to bed earlier if I want to get my allotted amount of sleep that I know I have to have. But if you think about it and change your habits and routines, you just might discover that you do have time to write a book. Or do whatever the thing is. No one said that you had to write the book or do the thing all in one sitting. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So just consistently put in some time. That's how you accomplish any big project. But I don't know how to start, Jana. That's obstacle number 2, right? Well, you have to get intentional again about researching how to start. Now that you've figured out how you're going to carve out time, the first thing you do with that time is get on Google and start researching whatever it is that you need to know about writing and publishing a book or launching your business or whatever your thing is. Maybe during that time you go online and find a conference to go to that teaches you all about writing a book. So like at 5 a.m., you might not be writing the book for an hour. You might be researching how to get started, how to publish or self-publish or whatever it is that you need to research. And then suddenly you're less overwhelmed because you intentionally figured out why you were overwhelmed, and you just figured out how to overcome the two things that were causing the overwhelm. You see how that works? It's amazing, isn't it? By the way, that is a perfect example of what coaching is like. And so if you have any interest in learning more about coaching with me, working with me, click the link in the show notes to learn more about coaching with me. At any rate, now let's talk about all the areas of your life that you could be intentional about with the goal of living your best life, both now and in the future. So we just talked about dreams and goals for things like a business, a big project, writing a book, and that kind of thing. But this applies to any dream or goal you might have, from learning an instrument, getting a master's degree. It's about knowing the things that you want and intentionally making space to recognize if your lifestyle or a specific activity at a specific time is supporting it. Now, what about your relationship with God? That was the first essential of Total Thrive. Are you intentionally working on your relationship with God? Are you intentionally setting aside time to spend in the Word, to worship, to pray, to meditate, to just be in His presence? What about purpose? Are you intentionally pursuing purpose, or even figuring out what your purpose is? What God has called you in this season of your life. And if you haven't grabbed your copy of my free Discover Your Purpose guide, click the link in the description for that as well. That's one very practical way that you can be intentional about pursuing purpose. And then mindset. What about your mindset? How intentional are you about recognizing those negative, toxic thoughts, taking them captive, and meditating on what is good and lovely and true? As a reminder, I'm also working on that Mindset Makeover program to help you embrace a powerful mindset that will propel you toward achieving your dreams and goals with confidence and living with the peace and joy that you can only have when your thoughts and beliefs are aligned with God's Word. So click the link in the show notes if you are ready to be intentional about mastering your mindset to achieve your best life. What about your relationships with people? Intentionally think about the people in your life that are most important to cultivate good relationships with. What are the practical things that you can do to nurture those relationships? Joy and bliss. What do you intentionally do that brings joy into your life? Do you have hobbies or sports? Do you take camping trips with your family? Again, we just talked all about joy in the last episode, all of the ways that you can get intentional about bringing joy, bliss, beauty, relaxation, community, people, quality downtime, rest and recovery between all the other things that you are doing all the time. What do you do for self-care, physical and mental rejuvenation? Maybe that's reading a book or taking a walk on the beach, but are you intentionally making time for those things? Okay, so let's get even more practical here. I'm going to give you what I call the 3 practical P's for practicing intentional living. I'm going to do a whole other podcast episode diving deeper into all the ways these 3 things can be applied, from big goal setting to just going through your day. But in a nutshell, it's this. It's pause, ponder, and pivot. Pause, ponder, and pivot. So first, we're pausing. We're stopping. Whatever it is that we normally do, our normal train of thought, our normal habits and routines and just ways of doing things, and we're taking a moment to step back. Next, we ponder. We think about whatever it is that we're trying to be intentional about. We ask ourselves questions like, how well are things going in this area? What can be better? And what practical things can I do to facilitate that? And then we pivot. We make a course correction. We adjust. We take intentional action to make those changes and implement the things that we know we need to do to get the result that we know we really want. And I mean, this applies to everything from pausing to recognize that the sink full of dirty dishes is less important in a particular moment than maybe playing tea party with your daughter, your niece, or your granddaughter, to taking a weekend retreat to get away and pray about a big job change that you're considering, starting a business, moving to another state. So this whole pause, ponder, pivot thing, it just applies to anything, little things and big things. And right now you can live with intention by intentionally thinking of a woman who would benefit from this episode. You see what I did there? And clicking the share button to share it with them. And then sharing with me what takeaway was most impactful for you in the YouTube comments below or the Spotify Q&A. And of course, like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all the things depending on what platform you're on. Now off you go, girl. Hopefully you are inspired to live intentionally, on purpose, with purpose, as you endeavor to live your best life as a Christian woman.